I am a big fan of movies. I don't know how many of you would just enjoy going out to the movies on a Saturday night or Friday night, or just sitting at home watching flicks. It's a great way to spend your life, especially when you don't want to do anything else. But my favorite types of movies are science fiction movies. Movies that have some disaster or maybe there's a movie about some strange, huge animal that goes around eating people or something like that. And for every good Hollywood blockbuster movie that's like that, if you ever watch the Sci-Fi channel on cable, there are a dozen cheesy, crappy movies, if I can use that word, I'm sorry. Just bad copies of it. Like for every Armageddon, you know, the movie where the asteroid was coming to hit the planet Earth. If you watch Sci-Fi Channel, there's movies like Comet, or Meteorites, or, oh my goodness, something's falling from the sky. The world's going to end. And for every Lake Placid where this huge alligator is coming down to devour people, there's movies like Sharktopus, or Octoshark, or something like that. Or Mega Shark versus something or another, where we have to rely on 80s pop stars to save the planet.
But Debbie Gibson promised.
Yeah, Debbie Gibson and Tiffany, they don't work together well, apparently. But they're horrible. You know, one thing about these movies is there's a lot of people are going to die, and somehow, hopefully, people are going to survive. Apparently somebody survives because our hero has to end on victory. So what does this have to do with anything? Well, today I've titled my sermon, How to Survive a Cheesy Sci-Fi Movie. And that's an extended metaphor that you're going to see throughout this whole shebang this morning. But we're talking about real practical stuff here. We're coming out of Hebrews chapter 10. And I know several months ago, Pastor Chuck led a series on the book of Hebrews, but I didn't have much chance to chime in and figure out how I feel about the book of Hebrews. And I've been taking a class in seminary this semester that's on the book of Hebrews. So this is my chance to talk about Hebrews chapter 10. And to give you a little refresher of what's happening in the lives of these people. The book of Hebrews, we don't know who wrote it. We don't know exactly who it was written to. But we know a couple things about these people. The people that it was written to were going through a severe time of trials, of tribulations, of persecution. They were being treated horribly for being Christians. And not just like we do at work, where we don't get the days off we want. Or we don't get we have to deal with a whole bunch of stuff from our corporate people and from our co-workers. But no, these people were being abused. They were having their stuff taken. They were treated like lower class citizens because they proclaimed the name Christ. And this is where we come in. We come into this place, and they have to figure out, how do I get through it? How do I get through this life unscathed? Well, Hebrews chapter 10 gives us a brief glimpse of what steps they need to take in order to make it through this unscathed, or to make it through this at all. And I found 4 steps on how to survive persecution, and in the case of our sermon fund today, a cheesy science fiction movie. So starting with verse 19, I'll just read it through and then I'll come back and we'll talk about it. So therefore, my friends, since we have confidence to enter the sanctuary by the blood of Jesus, by the new and living way that he opened for us through the curtain that is through his flesh. And since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us approach with a true heart in full assurance of faith, with hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering. For he who has promised is faithful, and let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. For if we willfully persist in sin, after having received the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins, but a fearful prospect of judgment, and the fury of fire that will consume the adversaries. Anyone who has violated the law of Moses dies without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much worse punishment do you think will be deserved by those who have spurned the Son of God, profaned the blood of the covenant by which they were sanctified, and outraged the Spirit of grace? For we know that the one who said, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay," and again the Lord will judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. But recall those earlier days when, after you have been enlightened, you endured a hard struggle with sufferings, sometimes being publicly exposed to abuse and persecution, and sometimes being partners with those so treated. For you had compassion for those who were in prison, and you cheerfully accepted the plundering of your possessions, knowing that you yourselves possess something better and more lasting. Therefore, do not abandon the confidence of yours. It brings a great reward. For you need endurance, so that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what was promised. For yet in a very little while the one who is coming will not delay. By my righteousness one will live by faith. But my soul takes no pleasure in anyone who shrinks back. But we are not among those who shrink back and so are lost, but among those who have faith and so are